Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the United States Chess Championship. This is the 7th round out of 13, and in this recap, you are going to witness some of the most spectacular disaster that you have ever witnessed in Grandmaster level play. This recap is going to take the cake. Sometimes we have exciting games. Today we just have tragical, is that a word? Tragic disasters all over the chessboard. And you're going to have a great time. We're going to have a wide array of games from both the women's side and the open side. And we're going to get going here with the matchup between Begim Tokhirjonova and Tatev Abrahamyan. This in and of itself is a battle for the longest name in the competition, although Tatev is definitely beaten in this one for sure. This was a very fun game. Now, one thing about Tatev is that she plays the French defense. If I'm not mistaken, she's played this like the whole time that I've known her as a professional chess player. I don't know if that's like her official job title, but she always plays the French, okay? And so it's tough to beat people like that because they know what they're doing, right? And so white plays an advanced French, which is one of the ways to try to play for advantage. But as you can see, Stockfish is already not convinced. Knight c6, knight f3, bishop d7. But in recent times, the advance kind of has come back as opposed to playing the classical or the Tarrasch or anything else. White actually nowadays does get some decent positions with various ideas, such as this one, knight to a3. Now, of course, you can go knight b5 and knight d6 mate, but that's probably not going to happen. Black plays knight g6, and white kind of shows the other idea of knight to a3, which is to go back to c2 and potentially go here in the future. More than anything else, white is trying to support this pawn. Black is trying to attack the center with the c pawn and with f6, and you're going to see that in a little bit here as white plays the move h4, creating some sort of attack, and black plays the move f6, allows this, and actually goes voluntarily back to h8. Now, that looks ridiculous, but it's actually kind of part of the idea, because then black is going to go knight f7 and attack the pawn on e5. So somehow black's position, as completely insane as it looks, makes sense. And up until this point, white was playing prep, I think, unless she was improvising over the board. But as far as I could tell in the database, this has all happened before. If it's not clear, white is most likely not going to castle. White is probably going to try to use the fact that the rook is still here. Black probably should begin chopping the center. Tatev plays this and then this. And now we have the following position, okay? Now, black is better if black plays the move knight g5. And so black actually has, everything has worked in her favor. Even though she's a very predictable player, she's come well prepared, and she's gotten a great position. And after knight h4, black is much better. So black now has a choice, okay? Get in with a knight or get in with the queen. Okay, those are the options. You can play queen b6. You really can't get in with anything else. The bishops are sort of stuck. Knight e4 is Stockfish's top choice, with the point that if you take on e4, and, you know, it just looks like you're going to win material, queen a5 check comes in. It's really hard to stop the attack. And then there's this. So there's this, and it's just very hard to defend the position. And there's this. But white is just in a lot of trouble here because white just never got the rooks into the game. There's other ideas, like queen b6, as I mentioned. But black does this, and you can sort of see immediately the computer is unhappy. That's because this trade, this very simple exchange, and just moving the king out of the check is better for black. Better for white. It's better for white. Like, this is, compared to the other situation where the knight could have jumped in here and caused, it's actually fine. The knight still jumps in here, but now white is in time to consolidate the king. White has actually gotten a free pass out. And now white's like, wait a minute, I've defended everything. Notice how much hesitation was in like Tatev's play. Look at this. Like bishop b4, bishop c5, bishop e7. Like, she can't really figure out what she wants. And now in chess, you waste one move, you might be okay. You waste two moves, it might get bad. You waste three moves. Knight g6. Uh-oh. This is a Trojan horse. The literal definition. White is threatening something so savage here. White is not threatening queen h5, queen h8. White is threatening rook h8 check, because you got to win in style. Yes, queen h5 wins, but you got to win in style. No, you got to win in style. You got to sack the second rook 2 for no reason, and then queen h5, queen h8. Right? So suddenly black is like, wait a minute, I'm under serious attack. Here comes queen g4. Now what does white do? Just takes the bishop. Why? Because the Trojan knight is now replaced with a Trojan bishop. Oh my goodness. if black plays rook f8, she gets her queen trapped. So she has to try to fight back by sacrificing the rook, but white's attack continues, consolidating her own position, poking holes in black's. 5 out of 6 pawns on light squares means the dark squares are up for grabs, and any good position always needs a finishing kind of touch, and the game ends in style with bishop c3 pinning the knight, and then the sacrifice of the queen. Takes. Black resigned because black has no moves. The threat is bishop g7 and rook f8, and black is helpless. Black's king has 0 moves, and not a single piece can fight back against the white army with g4 and rook h5 and all this incoming. Game over. All of this started because black hesitated when she got a good position, and then it got bad to worse, and one Trojan piece on g6 led to another Trojan piece on g6. Just an awesome game, and a great win for white. Now, we also had another game on the women's side between Megan Lee and Jennifer Yu. This was a very long game. I'm going to take you through it. It was a Scotch opening. It was a sideline of the Scotch, not a particularly scary variation. This is known as the Potter variation. Yes, the Harry Potter variation. And yeah, I mean, the game was certainly imbalanced, and you know, both sides clashed on the king side with their F pawns, and then black took in the center, and then this, and like normally, you know, you expect opposite side castling, there's going to be some big attack. Like, Megan could have played g4 here. I mean, that's kind of what, like, you know, rook g1 and g3 is just sort of, it's solid. It's not bad, but it's solid. And she got kind of a very pleasant position throughout this game, and she improved her structure and developed on the king side, and she's just better. She has a bishop versus a knight kind of situation, and black is sort of tied down. Black can't really move a whole lot. Queen c7, you know, c5 trying to break out, d4, and now white is completely winning. Why is white completely winning? Because white actually has an attack. Black doesn't. Like, black's attack looks good. Looks like there's a powerful thing here, c3, queen a3, but here's the thing. It's all smoke and mirrors, okay? Now, here, white can win with just taking this pawn. After queen d4 and bishop takes d7, you think that, like, you're fine, just rook d1. Then this, and then we take everything. We just feast on the 7th rank. The game is over. Instead of that, Megan does this, taking the pawn on b7, and hangs out over there with the queen, loses her knight this way, and then does it this way. Okay, that's also fine. King h8, and now the game can end here if you play rook to e6, because after rook e6 and rook e6, the queen is just deflected from the rook. I'm guessing there was time trouble here, and instead of that, what Megan did was sack the queen to do this, and go for an endgame where, when the dust settles, she's up a pawn, and she's also completely winning because these pawns are too close to the white king, and probably the white king will win them. Jennifer Yu goes down 2 pawns, and now a very nice idea here, sacrificing a pawn to create an outside passer and just walk the pawn all the way down the board. Black is preoccupied with defense. There is no way to prevent now this pawn majority, and a basically start to finish dominant performance by white, who now is tied for first in the women's section of the US Championship. With a very dominant win over Jennifer Yu, who was in first place for basically most of the tournament. Now, the story of Megan Lee is actually pretty wild because, like, I did not even realize this was the same Megan Lee who played in chess tournaments when I was playing in chess tournaments. Like, I thought this was just a different Megan Lee. Because I think Megan is 1996 and I'm 1995. So, like, when you're the same age roughly as certain players and you kind of see them at tournaments, and you just, like, some people stick to chess, some people don't stick to chess. And I truly, like, I just thought, like, Megan, like, went to college, did something probably more exciting than chess, which a lot of players have. Like, Emily Nguyen was a strong female junior player for many years, and she's, like, off at some great school. I mean, so is Jennifer Yu, but she's still playing chess. So there's players, and there's male players as well from my, like, childhood who were, like, 21, 2200, and then they just go to, you know, college, they get like 9-to-5 jobs, and they make a whole bunch of money. But Megan's still crushing it. After 7 rounds, she's tied for first at the US Women's Championship. I was like, wait, this is the same person? I thought it was like some 14, 15-year-old, like, just coincidentally had the same name. I was shocked. So it's like really cool to see that, you know, even in kind of the adult phase of life, you're still playing, you're still winning, and she's 5 for 7. She's in first place, tied with Irina Krush. So good for her. We'll see how the rest of her tournament goes. Now, let's move on to the open section. Yeah, folks, I'm not gonna lie to you. The men today, they were goofy. The men were goofy today. No game goofier than this one. Lenier Dominguez sits down to play Alshon Mora Diabadi. We have a Petrov defense, something we have seen many, many times. A main line with knight e4, d4, d5, bishop d3. This has been seen a bunch during the candidates. Now the lines are either bishop e7, knight c6, or bishop f5. All have been played before. Black plays the move bishop... No, sorry. Maybe not bishop f5 in this move order. I think you have to play bishop e7 first. I think there might be a tactical refutation to this move. But in general, those are the three moves. That's why I don't play the Petrov. But anyway, bishop e7. And see, now Alshon plays bishop f5. So in this position, the main line for white is rook e1. And Lenier said that in his post-game interview. But he said that Alshon in this tournament has played a bunch of openings he's never played before, including the Petrov. So he said, you know what? I'm not going to play into his prep. I'm going to play a move that's not best, okay? But it makes black think. And black has to take here. Normally, black plays c6, especially when the bishop is here. Black plays c6 to strengthen the center. Now, Alshon here blunders, okay? Say, what? What? How? Well, so Lenier paid off, right? Like, what he did paid off. Well, the point is that cd5, after c takes d5, it's already plus 1.4. And you think, well, why? You can just go here. Right. Now it's plus 3. How? Well, obviously white shouldn't take the knight, right? No, that's exactly the move. If black takes like this, black loses a piece. And if black takes like this, there is knight c3, forking these two pieces. If this, then this, followed by this, and then this. And if the queen stays guarding the bishop, then take, and the same exact problem. And after Lenier Dominguez played the move bishop takes e4, Alshon resigned. Alshon played 9 moves in this game. Man, I feel for the guy. That's tough. That happens sometimes. It's really a shame when it happens on such a stage. And I mean, it just really goes to show you, like, you cannot play around in the opening stage against some of the top 10, 15 players in the world because they just know all the tricks. Lenier was like, yeah, I mean, c4 is not the best move, but he's playing on his own. And I mean, he just goes from bat to he just literally loses in 10 moves. 9.5. Shocking. I mean, what can you... This is the whole... I'm not trolling you. This is the whole game. This is literally the whole game. Lenier was like, yeah, I haven't won a game like this in 20 years. I haven't, you know... Some people haven't won a chess game overall in 20 years, but... And that, yeah, that's it. That's the whole game. Now, Ray Robson versus Wesley So. Longtime friends. And they actually went to college together as well. Ray Robson plays and allows a Nimso Indian. We have e3 and now a sideline. So generally you're going to play e3 with the intention to play bishop d3 and knight e2 or knight f3. But he just plays knight f3 straight up. And Wesley damages the structure and plays d6. So Wesley wants to play on the dark squares with knight c6 and e5 or e5 straight away. The point is that if you play de5, and knight e5, this structure is very bad and black very quickly gets fast counterplay. So rather than engaging in all of that, Robson plays e4 and then does this. And as you can see, he's gambiting a pawn. So he's just giving up a full pawn. But what he's going to do is rely on the activity, okay? He plays rook e1, trades off one of black's only active pieces, and leaves black with the following position. White has 6 pawns, black has 7, but the reason it's only 0.2 because white has activity, okay? Now, the activity is not going to be proven by the next move, which is h3, but it's the best move because it actually really limits black's scope of pieces. If black plays bishop e6, then after bishop g5, you do not naturally develop because your bishop is trapped. Like, h3 is actually a really menacing move, and this is on the way. So Wesley plays this first. Queen c2 and tries to develop his light-squared bishop. They both develop their pieces. Now Wesley shuts the door, okay? You can tell already some bad things are lurking in the position with these bishops and these diagonals, but black is still completely fine. Now, as a human being here, you never want to play queen e7 because rook e1 is going to arrive. But apparently, baiting this and then going here to trade the rook is what Stockfish wants. Wesley doesn't do that because he's like, what kind of an idiot would I be if I allowed that? Like, why don't I just play Queen F8 instead? Well, now White doesn't have to go Rook E1 and White goes G4. Oh my goodness. And now if Black continues with Rook E8, there is no trade. G5 and Bishop H7. Wait, Wesley's under serious attack. Defense. Now, look at this. King H2. Do you understand why King H2 and not King G2? Because he wants to use the G file. And if you let Stockfish think here, it starts going lower and lower for Black. Like, it starts at some point going like, wait, this is a real problem. Wesley plays C6. That's too slow. Because after C6, G5 arrives. Pawn takes, knight takes. Now White is on the verge of having 5 pieces out of 5 all attacking the king. C takes D5, Bishop H7 check, King to H8. Obviously, if knight takes, there would have been mate. And the bishop slides back. Now the threat is to take, remove the knight, and deliver mate. The knight jumps in front of the bishop, but the pawn removes the knight from its defense. Knight to G6. The bishops stare at the knights, and not only do they stare at the knights, and yes, of course, Ray Robson can play the move Rook G1 here. Ray Robson starts chopping down the forest. Bishop takes F6. G takes F6. Knight takes F7. Shredding open the Black's king's defenses. Takes Queen E7. And now the final touch, Queen F2. The Black queen cannot activate whatsoever. Queen H4 is on the way. Rook G1 is unstoppable. Black tries his best. But here comes the rook. Here comes the white rook with Queen H4 and Rook H5. The hunt begins. The king is not allowed to escape. There is no perpetual check. Ray wins the pawn back, and now he is fighting on equal terms. Not only is he not down material anymore, he's also got that devastating attack to boot. And he just plays Queen H6, Bishop H7 check, and a very calm and collected move, Rook back to G2. Why did he do that? Black has no moves. And the threat is as follows. Bishop takes F5. If this, Queen H8, and you have to in some way tie your shoes together here and lose your rook. Ray Robson not only just defeated Wesley So with the white pieces. Ray Robson just crossed 2,700 for the first time in his life. That's huge. Massive congratulations to Ray. Super, super nice guy. One of the most consistent top players that still plays to this day. Ray is actually another guy. Like, Megan Lee is 96. I think Ray is 94, 95. Ray Robson was always in my age group growing up. And he went to college, and, you know, he was never a 2750 rated player or a 2800 level player. But if you look at Ray Robson's rating graph, he's almost never lost rating in a calendar year in his life, which is just incredible. And he just gets better and better. He's like a fine wine. He just gains a few points every few years and just chills and does this thing. And yeah, Ray just beat Wesley So, which is spectacular. That is an amazing result. And that, I mean, it just really can't be understated. That's a tremendous win for him. Massive and hearty congratulations. And he's in second place. He's in second place in the United States Chess Championship. The next game that I have for you is Fabiano Caruana versus Alexander Linderman. This is a very fun one. We have C4, C6, and Fabiano plays the Queen C2 Slav, okay? But then he plays E4, a gambit. Now, normally, this gambit exists in the Slav, which is DC E4 B5. This is known as the Geller gambit. And recently, like as 7-8 years ago, and to this day, the move Bishop E2 became very popular. Like if you look at the database, tons of GM games. But he plays it this way, which doesn't even have a name. I think this is called the Rouses Gambit, literally named after the guy who was using the phone in the toilet, Igor's Rouses. I'm pretty sure it's named after him. And the point is this. White is just down a pawn. Just straight up, just down a pawn. But Black has a very overextended queenside, which normally in these positions makes sense, but right now White's center stays completely intact. and white has very good pressure throughout the middle game, okay? As early as move 8, we're in brand new territory. This has never been reached before, and Linderman delays castling for a very long time. Like, right here, Linderman could castle, but it would get very dangerous for him after e5, right? Which is why he needs to play h6 to prevent all of this. You may notice Linderman's delayed castling even here, once again, because of e5. So the final move of preparation to castle was this. But now queen e2. And now if you castle, well, e5, knight d5, and queen e4. And that's hanging, but that's mate, which is worse. So knight d7. But now e5, knight d5 takes, and knight back to e1. And now if you castle, finally, queen g4. And like I'm threatening bishop h6, and if you go here, looks like you're out of the woods, queen h3, and I'm going to sacrifice. If bishop g5 trying to prevent that, I have f4. I mean, this is actually like a masterclass in preventing a guy from castling. Queen b6 attacks the pawn in the center, queen g4 defends, and now black can't castle anymore. So he starts attacking on the queen side, b4 and a5. And now Linderman's like, well, I can't castle, but I can walk my king to g7. So I'm going to do that. Fabi's like, well, let's meet him right there with g3 and h4. h5 from Linderman. And Fabi sees 5 pawns on that side of the board defended, standing on the light squares. So he wants to get in, right, with his bishop on g5. That's exactly what he does. But black is, of course, better. I mean, this is a gambit at the end of the day. One side is down a pawn. So rook c1, take. And Linderman's doing a very nice job here keeping the balance. Now, the reason the computer started liking white's position again is because when you're up a pawn, you need to look around and go, where is the pawn? The pawn is right here. Is it really playing in the game? No, it's kind of a non-factor. I'm sure we could forget about it. f6. Take, queen e2. And there's just not a whole lot here. I mean, white is doing all right. Linderman could maybe move his knight into the middle here. Take, go on some big exchange of pieces. But Linderman here, I think, just goes, yeah, I don't have any moves, and I don't want to go here because rook c8, and knight e6 wins the queen. It's funny. My first instinct was to try to checkmate the black king, and then I was like, wait a minute, that's just a fork. So Linderman's like, well, I don't have any moves, so I'm just going to pass back. Why does that lose? Well, it loses because of that pawn I told you to forget about. Take. Rook takes a5. Fabiano's pressure pays off. The black pawns were sort of standing as targets. Now if queen a5, there is queen takes e6. And by the way, it has nothing to do with this. It's queen e7, and it's just mate. It's going to be mate in a few moves. And Linderman just blunders a tactic, which now leads to a devastating attack on his king. I think Fabiano actually could have had a slightly faster way of winning somewhere around here, but he gets to an endgame where he's up 2 pawns, and he knows very well how to win an endgame up 2 pawns, and he does exactly that. He doesn't allow black to get anything, pushes the pawn to b7, and the game is over. And you know who's in first place in the US Championship after Ray Robson? Right above him, Fabiano Caruana with 5 points out of 7. He has now won 4 games in a row, which is really not that bad. I mean, you win 4 games in a row in a tournament, you're going to be in first place. Also, Fabiano Caruana has played Linderman 5 times now over the board at the US Championships, and he's 5-0. And if you're going to tell me that's not like a tough stat line to deal with, like imagine you go into a battle with a guy, he's beating you every single time. I mean, that can't be fun. All right? It happens to me when I play Title Tuesday. I'm not playing in the US Championship, but anyway, that brings me to my final game of the day. I am sure that many of you jumped ahead, but if you didn't, here you are. Yeah, Hans Niemann versus Dario Schwartz. No, Polish folks. I looked up how to say his name and then I forgot. It's like, is it like Schwartz? Something like that? Anyway, I like to pronounce names correctly out of respect for the players. Hans with the black pieces in this game plays into a Bogo Indian Catalan. So bishop b4, it's kind of just the Catalan, but bishop b7, just the Catalan, don't worry about it. And Dariusz apparently played like this before in like 2016 or something. He said that in his post-game interview. Whatever. I mean, position's very balanced, okay? Very tense position early on. Queen b1 is a very common idea to sidestep like this and go on this diagonal in these positions. And also the rooks like to play like this. Black plays c5, and now we have take, and bishop takes. Bishop moves back, and this is the position. Now, white is very comfortable here. Very comfortable position, good center. Rook on the same line as the queen. Rook fd8 here for black is completely reasonable by Hans. And as Dario described, apparently queen c7 was some sort of new move. It seemed like some sort of preparation by Hans. And yeah, after the first 15 moves, I mean, life was 17 moves. Life was pretty good. But then Hans played queen b8, which in and of itself is not a bad move, because you can obviously see that Dario did the same thing, and the position is very much in the balance. Now we have, once again, e5 and a knight going to d5. You will remember from our previous game. Do you remember when that happened? When the knight went to d5, e5, knight d5. So for the second game in a row, we have a knight relocating to the middle. Now knight c4, looking for knight d6. Here Hans plays an absolutely captivating move, which I could not fathom whatsoever. And this is what I'm saying, like, some sort of disastrous striking. I mean, basically, white has a long-term idea to go here. What's amazing about the long-term idea is that, like, let's say something like rook d8 happens, white could actually apparently still try this, according to the computer. There are, like, some positions where this move is not completely ridiculous. I mean, for example, b5, knight d6. Because after take, queen d6, white has, like, some sort of attack, right? And maybe not against this option, but in any case, knight g5 is there. And there's some sort of big attack potentially brewing. This is only minus 0.2 for one pawn, right? So we saw that in the last game as well, some compensation. But this is the idea. Hans plays queen a8. But doesn't queen a8 just completely allow this? So takes knight c5. Hans must have thought it's not a big deal because I'm activating my knights, right? I got the light square diagonal here. Now Dario's just, well, he plays knight d6. I mean, that was his, and now he's bishop d6. But now Hans, I think, overlooked white's next move. Something like that, because after this, the entire idea here is to play knight to f4. Hitting this, and if this, bishop f3 is really good for black. But Dario does not have to take back. The bishop completely removed from its defensive post. Knight g5 threatens checkmate. When you defend it, then I take back. And now Hans once again blitzes out a losing move. Hans was up about at 50 minutes on the clock in this game, 5-0. Dario here plays rook c6 with the idea of rook h4. And then here, noticing all the attack barreling down that side of the board, he can play rook h4, but he just plays knight e6. And the point is that if this queen g6 is mate in one, and if this, he just takes, and he's completely winning. He's not mating Hans, but he just plays d7. Hans resigns. That's it. He just resigns. If rook takes c4, bc4, white is going to go queen here and bishop f6. And you just cannot stop d8. 28 moves. Done. And this is crazy. Hans has now lost 3 out of his last 4 games, I believe. And he has fallen from a tie for first to 12th. He is tied for 12th and 13th place out of 14, which is shocking. I mean, he hasn't won a game in a while. He's got to right the ship. He's got to bounce back. Well, I mean, he doesn't have to do anything. But I mean, in terms of, you know, the ultra microscope that his games are now under, whether you're cheering for the guy or not, he is struggling mightily. It is absolutely no secret. And I'm interested to see what happens as this tournament reaches its conclusion. But that is your update for round number 7. I hope you enjoyed the recap, some absolutely fascinating games, and I will catch you all tomorrow for round number 8, as well as just other content here on the GothamChess YouTube channel. Good night from New York City. I will see you tomorrow. Get out of here.